Most people believe manipulation is dramatic, aggressive, obvious, loud. It isn't. Real manipulation is quiet. It hides inside normal conversation. It disguises itself as logic, urgency, apology, concern, or even kindness. And because it feels ordinary, it works. This is not a video about villains. This is about mechanisms. If you understand the mechanisms, you stop reacting to surface behavior and start recognizing structure. And structure is where control lives. Let's begin with something simple. Cunningham's law. The fastest way to get the correct answer is not to ask a question. It is to make a wrong statement. When someone says something incorrect with confidence, people rush to correct it. Not because they value truth, but because they value being right. The correction feels voluntary. It feels intelligent. But what has really been activated is ego. You weren't invited to share knowledge. You were triggered to defend accuracy. That is the pattern. Manipulation often works by converting internal drives into predictable responses. Pride becomes disclosure. Correction becomes cooperation. The person correcting believes they are in control. In reality, they are following a script written by someone else. Now consider the fool's mask. Intelligence is not always displayed. In fact, it is often concealed. When someone appears slightly incompetent, slightly unaware, slightly unimpressive, others relax. They lower their guard. They reveal more information. They assume dominance. Underestimation is one of the safest disguises. The moment someone decides you are not a threat, they stop protecting themselves. They speak openly. They expose weaknesses. They reveal priorities. The mask does not need to be convincing. It only needs to be plausible. Power does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits to be overlooked. Then there is silence. Silence is uncomfortable for most people. It creates tension, and tension demands relief. When conversation pauses, many rush to fill the gap. They elaborate, they justify, they reveal additional information that was never requested. The person who speaks less controls the tempo. Silence is not passive. It is a pressure tool. The longer it lasts, the more the other person feels compelled to explain themselves. Interrogations rely on silence, not because it is dramatic, but because it exploits discomfort. People fear awkwardness more than exposure. The quiet individual gathers signals, while others rush to eliminate tension. Next is urgency. False urgency compresses cognition. When someone says, "We need to decide now," analysis narrows. The brain shifts from deliberate reasoning to instinct. Reflection disappears. Skepticism declines. Artificial deadlines create artificial scarcity, and scarcity creates compliance. Time pressure feels external. It feels uncontrollable. But often, urgency is engineered. Manipulation does not force decisions. It accelerates them. Now look deeper at framing. Whoever defines the frame controls interpretation. If someone labels you as emotional, the debate changes. You are no longer defending a point. You are defending your composure. The frame becomes the battlefield. Most people argue inside frames they did not create. They defend accusations they never accepted. And by doing so, they reinforce the new structure. You can win facts and still lose influence if the frame is not yours. Frames precede logic. Then there is the controlled apology. I'm sorry you feel that way. It sounds accountable. It sounds mature. But responsibility has shifted. The problem is no longer the action. The problem is your reaction. Language does not only communicate, it redistributes blame. A partial apology neutralizes confrontation without accepting fault. It lowers emotional intensity while preserving power. This is not about deception. It is about phrasing. Information flooding is another mechanism. Overwhelm someone with complexity, excessive detail, technical language, statistics without context. The confused mind cannot challenge effectively. Clarity creates boundaries. Noise dissolves them. When information exceeds processing capacity, people default to trust, fatigue, or compliance. Too much information can be as controlling as too little. Then comes social proof. If everyone agrees, consensus pressure bypasses independent reasoning. Most individuals fear exclusion more than inaccuracy. Being wrong alone feels worse than being wrong together. Social proof does not prove truth. It signals belonging. Manipulators do not need universal agreement. They only need the perception of majority. The human nervous system prioritizes safety within groups. Now consider emotional baiting. Trigger an emotional response and observe the reaction. Anger reveals insecurity. Defensiveness reveals doubt. Over-explanation reveals fear of misinterpretation. Reactions are diagnostic tools. The goal is not to provoke chaos. It is to map patterns. Once someone understands your triggers, you become predictable. Predictability is leverage. Gradual boundary shifting operates differently. Small violations first. A slight dismissal, a minor favor that stretches comfort, a joke that crosses a line. If you tolerate the first breach, the second feels less extreme. Over time, your threshold recalibrates. Manipulation is rarely explosive. It is incremental. The mind adapts to change gradually. That is why gradual escalation feels natural. Each small step normalizes the next. Another subtle mechanism is identity anchoring. If someone repeatedly labels you as generous, strong, rational, or loyal, you begin to act consistently with that identity. Compliments can be anchors. You're smart, so you understand why this makes sense. Agreement becomes self-consistency. Disagreement becomes identity conflict. Manipulation does not require force. It requires alignment with how you see yourself. Then there is scarcity of approval. Withhold validation strategically. Provide it intermittently. Intermittent reinforcement is powerful because unpredictability increases attachment. When approval is inconsistent, effort increases. The human brain is wired to chase variable rewards. This is not romantic manipulation. It is behavioral conditioning. Attention, approval, and recognition can function like currency. Now step back. Every tactic mentioned shares something. They do not overpower you. They activate you. Ego, discomfort, belonging, urgency, identity, fear of exclusion, desire for clarity. Manipulation does not create weakness. It exploits reflexes. The most unsettling realization is this: these mechanisms are not rare. They are embedded in workplaces, relationships, negotiations, politics, marketing, and everyday conversation. They are subtle because they are effective. And here is the deeper layer. Manipulation thrives on speed and invisibility. If you react instantly, you follow scripts written by others. If you pause, the structure becomes visible. Silence feels different when you recognize it as a tactic. Urgency feels suspicious when you question its origin. Apologies sound precise when you analyze phrasing. Frames become visible when you notice how debates shift. Awareness does not make you immune, it slows you down. And manipulation struggles in slow minds, because its advantage is reflex. Most people will continue responding automatically. They will continue correcting false statements, filling silences, rushing under deadlines, defending frames, and adapting to incremental boundary shifts. Not because they lack intelligence, but because reflex is faster than analysis. The real power behind manipulation is predictability, human predictability. Once behavior becomes predictable, it becomes programmable. And once it becomes programmable, control no longer needs force. It needs positioning. The question is not whether manipulation exists. It does. The question is whether you can see it before you react to it. Most people cannot. That is why it keeps working.